Here we are in New Zealand's South Island at our next hiking spot, the Rob Roy Glacier Track. After the absolute ordeal of our last hike, this trail in comparison was an absolute dream from start to finish. Well, I'd say almost start to finish. Driving here was a complete different story. The gravel roads were so uneven and so bumpy, I'm pretty sure my campervan suspension and both our spines nearly crumbled into dust. Anyway, once we finally nabbed a parking spot, we set off into what can be only described as a picture-perfect landscape. We're talking rugged, otherworldly mountains, a roaring glacial river, and strolling through what I can only imagine as a prehistoric forest. The Rob Roy Track is a decent 7-mile or 11-kilometre out and back trail. Walking through it genuinely felt like stepping into the world of Jurassic Park, which, fun fact, is my favourite movie of all time. I am a huge fan of anything dinosaur related. So walking here, surrounded by deep green moss, towering ancient trees, and these massive fern plants made me really feel like I was right there, 65 million years ago. And honestly, this might be one of my absolute favourite forest walks in all of New Zealand. Now, to get across that river, we had to navigate this swing bridge, complete with a slightly nerve-wracking warning sign that no more than 10 people should cross at any one time, unless we wanted to test the river current firsthand, which was not on my to-do list. Thankfully, we had the whole bridge to ourselves, which made that swing bridge crossing slightly more comforting, watching those icy cold rivers flow underneath us. When we finally reached the end of the trail, while getting here felt like an absolute treat because of all the vibrant yellow wildflowers which were in abundance throughout the hike. It was almost like nature's guide directing us to a grand finale, where dozens of cascading waterfalls streaming down from the massive glacier looming over us like a towering cathedral of ice. And there was this one waterfall in particular which was mind-blowing. Just to stand there and watch the water plummeting directly out of the ice, mesmerised by the water falling through the air. Of course, when you reach a view like this, it is an unwritten rule that you must sit down, soak it all in, and enjoy a well-deserved snack of choice. Sitting here, just being present and admiring this ethereal landscape, it barely felt like real life. It's like something straight out of a Lord of the Rings films. You can see exactly why they had chosen New Zealand to film in these stunning locations. I'd be confident to say these places are the last of the remaining natural beauty of the world. Now, turn on those subtitles if you want to get an extra information of the trail, which you'll get an uninterrupted experience of this truly incredible hike. But for now, leave the noise behind and walk with me. Wow, that's something.